think we're about ready, folks. Welcome to the Plan Commission for Tuesday, August 21st. I will ask you to turn off your cell phones so that your phone does not interfere with our deliberations. If you've never been to a meeting, and I think some of you have not, the way it works is I will ask staff to introduce the items one by one. We'll have a staff report. Plan Commission will then have technical questions about it. After those are finished, then we open it up to the audience for audience participation. Come to the microphone over here, the podium, state your name and address, and give your views. And after we have heard from everyone, we'll close public comment and bring it back to the commission for action on that item. So we'll start with roll call.
David Borsick.
Present.
Ed Bowen. Steve Cummings.
Here.
Michael Ford.
Here.
John Hintz.
Here.
John Kiefer.
Here.
Robert Weigert.
Here.
Thomas Perry. Andrew Mott.
Here.
And Kathleen Pratt.
Here. You have the August 7th meeting minutes. What's your pleasure?
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Minutes are approved. First item, residential design standards variance to allow window closures and a balcony on the front facade at 680 Central Street.
Thank you. Get this to work here. There it is. Okay, so. Yep. Okay, so item 1 is a residential design standards variance to allow window closures and the balcony to be installed on the front facade at 680 Central Street. Here is the subject site in blue. You can see it here. A lot of the surrounding properties are single or two-family residential, and they're all pretty much zoned TR10, at least to the west, the north, and the south. Properties to the east are multifamily residential, and I think that those are zoned UMU. Here is the existing, a few existing images showing the front porch in question at the property that we're looking at. So these are the existing windows. You can see a lot of these, they're installed in tandem, kind of side by side. Most of the facade is glazing. And what the applicant wants to do, as you'll see, is close off a number of these windows. You can see this pitched roof over here, over the enclosed porch. The applicant wants to turn that into a balcony, kind of an area where people can walk out and sit outside. There's a couple of double hung windows up here. You'll see those better in a few images in a second here. You can kind of get another sense here, some of the photos the applicant submitted, showing these double hung windows. Located kind of low on the front facade, at least in my opinion. Not quite sure why that happened, but obviously they're not anything special, but at the same time, what the applicant wants to do will have an impact. They want to install that balcony up there and then install a sliding door, which would be significantly larger in area than these windows here. You can see that some of this trim is deteriorated on some of these lower level windows, and so the applicant wants to replace those for obvious reasons. And then the applicant stated that in their application that their proposed changes would create a more inviting appearance, at least in his opinion. Here is his sketch that he submitted. I'd like to applaud his efforts. I know the one thing, though, is that it doesn't quite show everything that we'd like to see. It does show a sense of what he'd like to do. So you can see he would replace the windows that I showed you just previously with punched openings, so to speak. You'd see some shutters on either side. He'd have 5 windows total, I believe. So 1 on each side. We don't really regulate the side facades anymore. We used to, but not currently. We are really only concerned in terms of regulation with the front facade at this point. So he'd install punched openings or a single window here. I believe, and he may have to correct me on this, he'd be looking at installing 2 windows on this other side. There's a little bit more wall length on this other side of the entrance door here. And then this balcony, you get a sense of it, just a kind of a peek at it here, showing the railing, and he'd flatten the roof to do that. And then he'd install a sliding door that's not shown. We as staff looked at the context for this site. So the subject property is over here, so you can barely see it. But then we started to look at some of the surrounding properties, and what we noticed is that they're pretty similar in scale. They're pretty much all residential, at least on that block. So there's some varied architectural styles and massing, but scale-wise they're pretty similar. A lot of the openings are double-hung windows, and they're installed in tandem or in a series, a number of these together. You rarely see, I mean, there's a few instances where you have one here or there, but generally you'll have like 2 or 3 together along porches or on front facades. We did not see any shutters on any of the surrounding properties, and there were no balconies either. Ordinance does at this time prohibit balconies generally on front facades for residential properties. So that's another thing that we as staff looked at when we considered this. Showing you some more of the context here. So these are some more properties across the street. Our subject property would be over here in this image, and you're looking across the street at some of these properties, so maybe another sort of screened in or enclosed area here, for example. There are a few windows with trim on this one, none with shutters. There's a few in tandem over here. So we kind of saw some themes going on there. We as staff looked at this, and we felt that after discussing in-house, we felt that allowing the screen door and the balcony would be detrimental, because the screen door, one, would be a large area of glazing that would just seem out of character, and I wish I could do an image for this one. I didn't get a chance to do it, but it would be a large expanse of glass up there in the center on that second floor in a prominent area on the street facade of that property. Closing off a number of the windows, we felt that it wouldn't be ideal, but we could see the applicant doing it. We were not supportive of the shutters because those are not present on any of the other properties on the block that we could see. What we felt we would recommend is allowing the window closures, but not the balcony as part of this variance. And with the conditions that the applicant install windows together rather than doing a single punched opening here or there. So installing them in pairs, not doing shutters, doing window trim that's consistent with the trim on other windows of the house, so keeping that design integrity, keeping some consistency there. And basically the finding is that the window closure portion of the variance request would not be contrary to the public interest, but the shutters and the balcony, the sliding door, would be inconsistent with other properties on the block.
Okay, technical questions, Commission? Anyone? Okay, anyone here from the audience to speak on this item? Please come forward.
It's my property, and
Well, please come forward to the podium.
do you mind if I sit down?
If you're able to stand,
I
that
don't
would.
stand very good.
Well, the only problem is people on television can't hear you.
We have
Have a micro? Oh, sure. Then if there's a microphone there, please.
My big scare is
Give me
getting
your
back
name
to the car.
and address. All right, thank you.
Good.
Name and address first, please.
Tom Putzer,
Okay.
628 CP,
Okay.
Oshkosh.
Thank you.
I'm a little bit embarrassed because the balcony or the railings, can you put my sketch back up?
Sure.
On the thing, This was something that I was waiting for a phone call. Matter of fact, the number of the phone I was going to call is right on that picture. And as I was waiting there, I was sketching this thing out and getting an imagination. And so the railing was strictly the jewelry on the dress, so to speak. I have no interest in turning that into a place to walk. It was just, I think I put on there, or in my notes, I put on doodling. And then I wrote some notes here, neighborhood friendly. What else did I say there? Get rid of the factory look. Let's have a sleepover. I have a lot of properties, and I've been doing this for 54 years. And this is my last eyesore. And I just thought by getting rid of those factory-looking windows and turning it into more of a residential, if I was a little kid coming home from school, I would say, this is where I live. Whereas if you go back to the pictures that on here, I'd say, I don't live here. It's just, I don't know. Anyhow, the balcony is strictly, there's not going to be any sliding doors, and there's not going to be any change of those windows. It will look like that with better windows, hopefully down below. Like I said, strictly the jewelry on the dress.
Okay, do you know what the staff has recommended?
What?
Do you know what the staff is asking us to vote on? That a change from what you suggested? Are you aware of that?
Maybe I'm not.
Okay, want to tell him again?
Sure. So basically, what we as staff recommended is we recommended no shutters for the
Okay.
front porch windows. We also are asking that the windows be installed, that you install them in tandem, so in pairs, rather than just doing a single punched opening here, another one here, another one there. You know, that'd be more consistent with properties on the block to
On
install.
that picture on the left-hand side, I don't know that I can get two of them in there.
And that, yeah, I can see that, but over here,
Definitely two
you
there.
you might be able to explore that, you know, you can run that by us, we can take a look as staff at that.
Yeah, I would put a mullion in there and, yeah.
Now, this up here, maybe we had some miscommunication because I was under the impression from our discussion that we were talking about a sliding door, and so you're saying basically that that would just be a railing architectural element that's not, there's no inhabitable
It
space
was
out there.
just a sketch, that's
Okay.
all. It's a, yeah.
Sure,
Matter of fact, that house has since been sided, and that upper part is all sided and finished, and we're just waiting for this lower part here.
sure.
Are those? I drove by there. Are those operative windows up on top?
Are they what?
Do those windows work?
Can you
Are
open and
those?
close them?
Can you open the windows up?
I would imagine.
Looked like they were almost boarded up. Maybe they were just.
No,
had
I
a
think
shade
that's
on 'em.
something inside. I've had tenants there for, I don't know, 30 years,
Okay.
and I really can't answer. I mean, all of our windows open, I would assume that would include those.
Okay.
Looking at the picture, they look like they're a half window on the bottom that slides down. If you look
Oh,
at it,
okay.
there's one open on the right side, and the left side looks like it's closed if you look on the picture
Okay.
down here.
All right.
That's what I'm seeing anyway.
Any questions of the petitioner? Commission?
So you're not planning on putting a flat roof on there then?
Well, what's there is a flat roof now.
Not really.
No, that part you see goes up to a flat area, or basically flat, and it's probably
Oh, I see what you're talking
18 by.
That's
seven.
why the
See, it comes up. and-
windows look kind of cut off.
Yeah.
It's because it's
Oh.
flat.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh,
Sure.
Look on the diagonal view, you can kind of see where it
okay.
comes up. The corner.
But you still would like a little decorative railing there, or not? No.
Like it would be fine. Like I said, to me, it's like the jewelry on the.
Okay, okay, because I think,
It's better.
speaking for
there.
myself, the commission may not be interested in a little decorative, little railing. If we didn't do anything
That was
to
an air
those
conditioner.
upper windows.
All right, Kathy,
There we go.
Yeah, you can get a better sense of it here, so it does show this window, these two
Yep.
windows
Oh,
a
okay,
little
no,
better.
that's better.
air conditioner, yeah, there.
That's why it looked like it was.
I think if we leave the up above as is, would make me happy. And then if you're okay with the way the staff is recommending you're down below, your windows on the first floor.
Looking at that picture over there, I picture one window on the left of the door, two on the right, and then one on each end, or a double on each end. Just to get rid of, I mean,
Okay.
you can see the neighbors, and they got nice residential houses, and then I got this little factory in the middle. That's just my terminology.
Okay, so the one window on the left of the door and two together.
on the right, yeah.
Two together on the right.
Yes.
That's what the staff is saying. Okay,
Kind of like the next house over.
Sure.
It's got a double
Okay.
there.
all right. Okay. Any other questions, or do you have anything else you need to say?
No, I apologize for misleading
Okay,
with my,
well, that's all right. We've got it figured out now.
I
Thank
gotta
you.
stop doodling, you know.
Thank you.
That's nice.
Uh,
That's nice.
I wish I could do it like that.
Anybody else
I
wanting to
gotta
speak
figure out
on
whose
this
number
item?
that is. Maybe I'll be embarrassed. I don't know.
Anyone else wishing to speak on this item? If not, back to the commission.
Move for approval with conditions.
Second.
Any more discussion? John?
Yeah, I just, for the record, I just like to say, I'm gonna support the staff on this, but I don't think we should be making every house in the neighborhood look identical. I'm sorry, if he wants to have something that's a little bit out of character, it's not like he's drastically changing the house with that railing up there. Shutters, I don't think shutters look any worse, and maybe other, you know, the neighbor right there would put shutters in on their double window, you don't know. I don't think, neighborhoods change, neighborhoods grow as they go along. I understand the standards, but I also think that we should allow a little more flexibility for some individuality with people's homes. They're their property for you know.
Okay, any other discussion?
I like to say I agree with John with the railing, and I think even shutters in the top part would probably dress that up a little bit and take away some of the siding space that you see there, the amount of siding. So I think in some cases, shutters or even this railing, you know, being decorative railing like that would actually add to the neighborhood, not detract from it. So.
Okay, we ready for a vote? All right, call the roll, please.
Kiefer,
Aye.
Weigert,
Aye.
Mott,
Aye.
Gorsick,
Aye.
Bowen,
Aye.
Cumming,
Aye.
Aye.
Ford, Hintz,
Aye.
Crop.
Aye,
Motion carried 9-0.
thank you, sir. Next item,
I'm free to go?
you are free to go. Okay,
We weren't chaining you here anyway.
we're not holding you.
Thanks a lot, folks. I appreciate it.
Thanks for calling.
Next item, implementation plan for an 8-unit multifamily structure for 129 West 17th.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's-
So this one, I think all of you have seen before. This is, now they are coming forward, the applicant is coming forward for approval of a specific implementation plan for basically a multifamily adaptive reuse of the old VFW building at 129 West 17th Avenue. Here is the subject site in blue, or surrounded, or outlined in blue and then colored in red here. So it is zoned neighborhood mixed use, so NMU. PD actually now, so plan development. And I think that was just put on recently, as you all probably are aware or recall. There are a number of properties that are single and two-family in the area, actually mostly single-family. And then there are some mixed commercial uses to the west, northwest of the site. So a few mixed uses there. And showing an aerial of the subject site. I wanted to show a little bit of the context. I know most of you probably have seen it, but it doesn't hurt to refresh, you know, the memory in terms of looking east here, for example, showing some of these residential properties and then the old VFW building here. This is the original portion that would remain, and then obviously they would expand upon it, but this would pretty much be maintained and intact here. So just looking east there. This looks west, so you can see the subject site, just a little bit of it over here, the existing pylon sign there, some of the local, like the bar there, Whiskey's, I think, some of the single family over here. So the applicant basically came to us and they, I think at a previous plan commission meeting, they ended up getting a zone change from neighborhood mixed use to NMU PD, neighborhood mixed use plan development overlay. And they had a general development plan and conditional use permit approved for 4 duplexes and an 8-unit multifamily structure. The only thing being approved for this SIP would be the 8-unit multifamily portion and the associated 8-stall garage here, with the parking and landscaping that would go with it. The duplexes and all the rest of this site, other than the buffer yards or landscaping, I should say, all the rest of the site would be approved in the future. So that's not part of this SIP right now. This just kind of shows the site plan here, the existing two-story there, and then they would do a 8-unit addition basically onto that. They would maintain, I think, for the most part, this driveway, access drive here, and the surface parking here. And then they would add this 8-stall garage here. And they would landscape along this edge and around the site, down along here. All of that. Kind of shows you a little bit better, closer zoomed in view here, showing the existing 2-story building and then the proposed 8-unit apartment, the garage down on the bottom there. This here is the landscaping plan. So staff looked at this pretty in depth, and we determined that the applicant did meet our landscaping standards. Basically, they did have the required number of points along these property lines here. This here was not required to be landscaped because it was NMU to NMU basically, so the same zoning. And so we were fine with them not doing anything there. We asked them to treat this area between this property over here, basically its own NMU, but I think it's a single family if I remember correctly. We asked them to treat this area as a buffer yard. So basically, even though the subject property is NMU PD and the property to the immediate east is NMU, we still wanted them to treat it as basically the buffer yard between a SR9 property and an NMU property because it is a single family use. So we did ask for more rigorous landscaping, and they did comply with that. They met all of our foundation requirements for landscaping points around the building foundation. They proposed a new monument sign, and the sign currently meets our area requirements for a monument sign in an NMU district. It does not meet our setback requirements for such a sign. And so this sign will require a base standard modification. They have to meet principal structure setbacks, and right now I think they would have to meet a 25-foot setback, which obviously they don't. It's much closer than that. They're asking for about 8 feet 4 inches, I believe. So what they would do is they would enhance the landscaping around the existing flagpoles and put in this new sign. In turn, they would remove the existing pylon sign that's on the site. That would no longer be used anyway. We as staff felt that would be supportable. So they've done a pretty good job with their landscaping. Their dumpster enclosure, since that's on this plan, might as well mention that. That is a split face block enclosure, and that'd be located just to the south of the garages off the access drive there. We as staff felt that met the intent of the ordinance, so that was also supportable. Moving on from landscaping, this is their photometric, their lighting plan. So we looked at this, checked it against the standards. Their lighting complies with the height limitations. I believe the height limitation, if I remember correctly, is like 20 feet. I think they're at 17, so they do comply because they have a basically 15-foot lighting structure, or light structures here, or light poles, on 2-foot concrete bases. So they do comply with the height. They, in terms of light trespass at the property lines, they can't be over 0.5-foot candles, and they comply with that. And then they do meet the minimum requirements for average lighting in the parking area here. So they were okay from that standpoint. And then before I get into the actual recommendations, I wanted to mention stormwater management. We have had some discussions with DPW on that, and the applicant. They were told that they have to collect and convey their stormwater. I believe that their final stormwater management plans will be reviewed in site plan review process. So those are not in this, but we do expect that those will come through the site plan review process. They've had conversations with us, so I think they understand what they need to do from a stormwater management standpoint. And then just trying to make sure, building facades, their facades seem to comply. I asked the applicant to bring in a sample board of their proposed siding, their cladding materials, because they are looking to do like an LP Smart siding product, which we as staff, I don't think we've really dealt with that much. I believe it would be a Class 3 material, and so kind of on the order of fiber cement as far as our ordinance is concerned, but we thought that it would be nice for the Plan Commission to get a chance to see some of those samples. We do believe that they otherwise would comply with our material requirements. So basically, that's, I guess, in a nutshell, what they're coming forward with. And we recommend approval of this specific implementation plan with the following conditions. Basically, this SIP approval is only for the 8-unit multifamily structure and the 8-stall or 8-unit garage, associated vehicle access and circulation, lighting, stormwater management, and landscaping. So it's not for any of the duplexes, it's not for any further access drives or any of that. That would have to come through separately in the future. Base standard modification would be for allowing the setback of 8 feet 4 inches from the front lot line for this monument sign that they're proposing. As a condition of this base standard modification, they would have to remove the existing pylon sign that's currently located on the site. You all saw it in one of the images that I briefly showed with the context. The applicant would install the landscaping as indicated and will treat the yard between the applicant's property and the property to the east as a buffer yard, as if it was between an NMU and an SR9 property. Applicant basically shall install the lighting and stormwater management and comply with all the standards for those two elements. And basically, then that's it.
Okay, technical questions, John.
If you go back to the image with the, where you were showing us the landscaping and everything on
Sure.
that one. That dumpster enclosure is going to be right along the backyard of either 1720 or 1724 Oregon Street. I mean, is that going to be too close to the houses? I mean, those are like beehives in the summertime as far as, you know, with the refuse that's thrown in there and whatnot. I mean, wouldn't we want it more towards the southeast corner where it's the farthest away from all the residential properties?
Yeah, that's a good question. That's something that, you know, if you all want to, you know, something we can consider if you all want to
Seems like you don't want a
discuss
dumpster in your backyard.
Might be access.
Well, we can ask
Well, if
the
they can access
applicant.
it straight back, they can make that corner to get it over on the other side with the room they're leaving.
Any other technical questions? Yes, Andrew?
The siting of the garage stalls and the siting of the actual apartments, a little different between the two?
It looks like there actually is, now that you mention that. Yeah, they have they have a composite wood siding for the, I think Mark's got the, our board there. Yeah, so they are, it looks like they are doing like a composite wood siding for the, garage elevations. And then I forget if that LP Smart siding is similar to that. We can ask the applicant for clarification on that.
Any concerns about it being consistent not consistent between the two?
It'd be nice to have some unity, I think, some kind of consistency, or at least some kind of, you know, color palette that works. I know from the rear, you know, neighbors will be able to see it, so I guess we should consider them. You know, it's obviously not as prominent a view as it would be from the street, but still, you know, it doesn't hurt to at least consider that. I know they are proposing some landscaping, but some of it probably is a little bit lower along that facade there, so it is something that people could see, I'm sure.
Any other technical questions? Anybody here from the audience to speak to this?
Sure. Over here?
Yes, come to the podium, please.
I'm Corey Wallace, the architect that is working with the owner on this, so if you have any technical questions, I'm sure to answer them. We did bring a sample siding, which is cosmetically exactly the same as fiber cement. It would be hard to tell the difference between this and LP Smart siding. The garage and the building are both to have the same LP Smart siding.
At the same siding and the same color?
Color-wise, they could be, yes. We don't finalize the colors yet because we're still in the zoning process, but that's certainly feasible, and I would expect that that would be the case.
Okay. Did you hear the question about the dumpster, moving the dumpster?
The dumpster's in a location where if the area to the south was ever to be developed, it would be moved anyways. So I don't see the harm in moving it eastward. I don't recall, know exactly what location you had in mind, but we did have it on the east, near the east property line on the north edge at one time, and that was too close, a violation of the setback on the east property line, so we moved it to a conforming location.
Well, yes, if I was looking at what we have here as far as the garage stalls, the square that's coming down, I'm guessing that's gonna be all paved for the access to those garage stalls on the south end of that, where that dumpster's sitting?
That square that's shown there,
Mm-hmm.
I believe what you're referring to is the existing asphalt,
Okay,
and for now, that's just gonna stay. We're basically gonna cut the asphalt out in order to put the garages in, and the dumpster refuse location, and the rest would basically be there until eventually if phase 2 would be developed, then we deal with that later.
yeah, my question was is if you could move it towards the southeast corner, which is far enough away
That
from,
existing asphalt?
yeah,
I don't see why we couldn't do that.
just so it's away from the properties as much as possible, the surrounding properties.
I don't think we have any objection to that, no.
Move the red dot to your right.
Over here?
Up, yeah, keep going. Down towards that corner, because then it's the farthest away from all the surrounding single-family residential, instead of being right in someone's backyard there. So if you look at the map, it's either gonna be in 1720 or 1724's backyard, where it is now.
That makes sense.
Question for the staff. Is this the exact dumpster location if he's willing to move it? Is this something that you and
Yeah.
petitioner can work out later? And we don't have to prove that exact location today?
You can just tell us where you want to move it and as a condition, then we'll.
Condition that that the dumpster be moved.
Southeast corner of the,
Well,
existing
wherever's
asphalt.
appropriate.
Well, wherever's appropriate is a subjective question.
I know.
So we want some guidance, so if it's to the southeast, we can find that spot. If it's over where that red dot is or higher, we can
Yeah, you can
enforce
find
that
this.
as
Okay.
part of the condition, if everybody's on the same page here. Corey's on the same page, I don't know where Matt is Matt around here? Let's ask Matt. See if he goes into.
Am I okay with what? As far as moving to that southeast corner?
Right.
Oh,
Fred. Say your name, address.
Matt Vinola, 4820 Country Club Road, Oshkosh. I don't know if I'm okay with it or not, I guess, because it's gonna be in the back of the duplex, potentially in the future's backyard, and it interferes with that building would potentially be there.
But you're gonna have to move it, you're gonna have to move, if and when you build the duplexes, that's gonna have to move at some point.
And it's gonna go in
So
straight
where
south.
are you gonna wanna move it?
Eventually go straight south, where that little jog is.
That'd be a whole different SIP
Right.
process.
Oh,
That's way down there.
Yeah, it'd be different, there's no doubt.
So right now we're talking, like, I guess I really don't care where it's gonna go, because eventually all the asphalt's gonna be removed and turned into grass.
I mean, you're gonna be moving it regardless, so that's what's gonna happen.
Correct.
So the question right now for the plan commission and what's been suggested is that it moves over to the east.
Yeah, but right in that backyard is a garage, two garages, not somebody's house, that's out of that backyard.
Hope the area-
It's a garage.
Just get the
I'm looking
area.
for access for as far as the trucks coming in and out.
Just switch to Google Maps, second tab over.
Yeah, we could do it.
It's kind of the aerial
So
there.
there's an aerial, so you're, essentially it's,
Wherever that second garage is, basically. For the,
what's it, kind of where those two parking rows on the bottom come together, somewhere right around there, I would say. Down below your pointer there, just a little bit maybe.
Yeah, maybe down there.
Probably in
Yeah.
there.
Right in there, yeah.
Probably in there, so that's that's the point where it's gonna be.
and it's already pushes there, I see that. But I guess the reason to put it there is for direct access for the trucks coming in and out of that parking lot for temporary.
Yeah, that's true.
It's straight in, straight out. Otherwise, they're back into, we punching back into the neighbor's yard and causing ruts and running my bushes over and that kind of thing.
I don't know. If I lived there, I wouldn't want a dumpster in my backyard. Bees fly. Yeah, that's the whole thing.
Is that long, narrow building a residence?
No, that long narrow building isn't, but the one just to the south of it is.
Yeah, that's a garage for Witzke's.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
If you line it up there, you can't practically because the other garage is gonna be in the way, so that's not gonna work.
Oh, I could bring it up to the front corner of that garage, up our existing garage, our current, proposed garage is there. That would actually would be end up being almost
Yeah,
next to
how about right below the garage?
Witzke's garage then.
Yeah, to the right.
Oh, there,
Just-
yeah, from that.
Behind the garage, might make the garage look better.
It's also unlit behind the garage. Like, sorry.
Ed?
You don't anticipate, I mean, I'm looking at the lighting plan right here. You don't anticipate any lighting
No,
back
not at
here.
all.
So if you've got a, I guess, unintended I get where you're going with it,
Yeah.
John, but like, I think unintended consequence, you've got a tenant who's walking out of their apartment
behind the garage.
into a dark area with no lighting whatsoever, if we're moving it to that southeast.
I'm just trying. Yeah, if it moved up,
I would
if
think
there was
garage
a,
would be going north would be even better because behind the garage at Witzke's and also it kind of squares off that corner.
just moving it farther, a little farther from the residential is all I'm getting
Oh, yeah,
at.
yeah, you move, what is it?
Because Witzke's isn't exactly doing a lot of outdoor stuff. They have their, yeah,
Well, if there's
Yeah.
about 2.5 feet between that Witzke's garage and the parking lot.
yeah.
Or actually say parking lot, the property line.
So if north, if moving it slightly north works with the staff, I mean, I'll make that, yeah. Then I'll
I'm
propose.
okay moving it north, I guess. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
It's the 5-foot side yard setback.
Yes, that's
That's
correct.
the only,
Which,
what it should, it's at 5 feet
Yeah.
right now.
You should have enough. I mean, if you're moving it to the north, you see that strong tree line of evergreen to the south, it's probably gonna be moved in line or north of that. Correct.
Okay. So are you okay then with staff coming up with some language that says we move it, but doesn't say exactly where?
We'll just move to the north to be in line with the detached.
I better
Okay.
start writing.
Okay. Anything else you have to say? Okay, thank you. Anybody else wishing to speak to this item? Anybody else wanting to speak to this item? Back to the commission?
Hope to approve with the conditions and the added conditions for the dumpster.
Second.
Do we need to spell out the added conditions for the dumpster right
You're
now?
gonna move the condition, you're gonna move the proposed dumpster enclosure to be in line with the proposed detached garage. That's it.
Okay,
That sounds right.
okay. So we have a motion, we have a second.
Second.
John? Any more discussion? Call the roll.
Kiefer,
Aye.
Weigert,
Aye.
Mott,
Aye.
Orsick,
Aye.
Bowen,
Aye.
Cumming,
Aye.
Ford,
Aye.
Kinn,
Aye.
Crop.
Aye.
Motion carried 9-0 with amended conditions.
Item 3, zone change from SMU to SMU Plan Development and approval of a general and specific plan for property located at 1159 North Keller Street.
Thank you. So we have a two-part request here for this item. It's a bit of a unique site, so there's quite a bit of challenges taking place here. So this is the current site, presently zoned suburban mixed-use district. It is a vacant commercial parcel. Previously, there was a hotel kind of on that corner before the whole roundabout interchange took place. Now is kind of a unique configuration because it does have what is considered front yards on all 4 sides of the lot. So it's definitely a little bit of a challenging parcel. Staff worked closely with the proposed tenant to try to find a way to make a largely undevelopable parcel usable for them. So here we have the existing land use map, commercial to the north, kind of across Oshkosh Avenue. Immediately to the west, you have, and I think it's actually an aerial that shows a little better. Immediately to the west, you have that off-ramp for 441. To the north, you have a mixture kind of the detention basin for the highway and some of the local roads. To the south, you have that institutional land use. So here's the proposed site plan of the tenant. It's at approximately 1.7 acre site. The hotel was removed off previously the hotel was kind of up in this area. Some of the parking came into the corner here. That was removed in right around 2008 when that road work was done. Comprehensive plan calls for commercial in this area, so this is consistent with that. Proposed developer is looking to build about approximately 6,800 square foot bank with associated parking area. A bank would include office space, conference, training, and a drive-through facility. Tenant will be about 20 employees would be there. Standard kind of 8 to 5 banking hours on Monday through Friday, and then Saturday hours kind of 9 to noon is typical for a bank. Bank is looking at using this as a bit of a regional facility, so there is more parking than you would traditionally see with a regular bank, so we are going to be addressing that shortly. In terms of site design and access, they will require 2 access control variances for this site, which is item 3B of this agenda. The first would be to reduce lateral clearance from the required 75 feet to 30 feet 6 inches. That is for this area here. With the unique kind of nature of this site, how it sits out on its own, it's not a large traffic generating area. Staff really does not see a concern with reducing lateral clearance for this property. They will also need an access control variance for 2 drive entrances. So they would have a 2-way drive entrance off of North Keller for the bank area, and then an exit only on the western portion of the site for exiting of the drive-through portion of the bank. Staff, again, does not see that as a concern in this instance because it is a little bit of a remote lot. It's kind of the only thing on the side of the street there. Applicant is requesting a total of 50 parking spaces. Code would only allow a maximum of 28, so they do exceed the 125% requirement. They will need a base standard modification to utilize the 50 spaces. And again, they're using it as a bit of a regional facility, so they're going to have that occasional higher parking demand than an everyday bank would. So staff does support it just based on the nature of where this site sits and the intended use. It does make sense to have that increased parking. The applicant will require base standard modifications on 3 of the 4 property lines. Again, as this is considered a 4 front yard parcel, they would be required to meet the front yard setback on all sides, effectively making it an unusable parcel. So they're requesting base standard modifications to 10 feet along the north, east, and west property lines. Staff isn't supportive of that because it turns it into what would be a traditionally developable SMU parcel. So it does make sense to alleviate them. They don't have immediate neighbors on those sides. You've got an off-ramp and some detention area. Those detention areas are relatively green spaced. You've got a fair amount of green space to the west. So it makes sense to reduce those yards. Stormwater management plans have been submitted and are being reviewed by the Department of Works and the state. They're using a bit of kind of mixed stormwater management plans here with some direct access to that pond to the north, and they are working through those approvals with the state. Finalized stormwater management plans will be required and submitted as part of final site plan review. Landscaping. This is a relatively significantly landscaped site. Applicant would be required 174 foundation landscaping points. They vastly exceed that with 506 points according to the plan. Same with paved area. They're required approximately 250 paved area landscaping points. Plan indicates a little under 1,500. Street frontage landscaping would require about 417 feet based on their frontage. They're looking at about 510. Again, they do exceed it. And then finally, yard landscaping. They would be required an additional 135 yards landscaping points. They're approximately 200. So in all the phases of landscaping, they vastly exceed it. The applicant has not provided a sign package of this time. We've went over the SMU district standards with them, and they are aware of them and intend to meet those. So any final signage plan will just need to meet the base standards for the SMU district. Photometric plan was provided by the applicant, which does conform with our requirement of no more than 0.5 at the property line and a minimum of 0.4 for the parking areas. So they are in compliance with that. Building elevations. So the applicant provided building elevations for us. They far exceed the 50% requirement for a Class 1 type material. They're looking at about 82.5% on the full building, and then the specific breakdowns are provided within the staff report. Staff does recommend approval, so here are the elevations. It's mainly a brick building. They do utilize a little bit of some other composite materials, but it's mainly brick and glass. Elevations for. So staff does recommend approval of the zone change plan development and specific implementation plan with a couple of conditions. First would be subject to the approval of the access control variances that we'll discuss as item 3. Base standard modification to exceed the 28 parking spaces up to 50 as indicated. And then a base standard modification to reduce the setbacks to 10 feet along the north, west, and east property lines to make it a usable parcel. And then for the access control variance, we touched on it a little bit. We do recommend approval of the access control variance for the reduction of lateral clearance down to 30 feet 6 inches, and then increase the number of access drives from 1 to 2 as indicated on their plan.
Okay. Technical questions? John?
Is this parcel part of the TIF that we created along Kohler?
Yes, it is.
Does it, I see that meets the, or I think our standards for the class 1 materials, but does that still fall into that same district? Or
So
is
this
that
is
just-
not part of the corporate business park zoning district, but it does actually meet the requirements of our corporate business park zoning district.
Okay. Other technical questions? Anybody from the audience wishing to speak to this item?
My name is Steve Cunin. I'm representing the owner. I'm the architect with Bray Architects. I did just want to make one clarification that the building would actually be stone
I'm sorry.
rather than
It's
brick.
stone.
So, yeah, just wanted to, so that you're aware of that. And it would be a kind of a Fond du Lac, locally sourced from Beagle Stone in Fond du Lac. The bank has done this on just about all of their other branches, and it's something that they want to see on this one as well. So just wanted to make that little clarification. And we are actually looking at a potentially different roof pitch, but otherwise we're still kind of working through that. But it'll be a fairly minor change. But the what you see up there is primarily what we're gonna what we want to build. So, okay.
I just want to say that, frankly, I'm amazed. It never occurred to me that was a buildable parcel. So to have a facility come in and then to have you overdo the landscaping and the materials is marvelous. Marvelous.
That's great. Well, the bank is really proud of their facilities, and they really want this to reflect their commitment to the community.
Well, and it will enhance the corporate park
Good.
adjacent. Thank you. Anybody else wanting to speak to this item? Back to the commission.
Could I make a
John?
motion to accept both of A and B at once, or do we have to do them separately?
Should we have one or two motions? Okay.
If everybody's amenable, I'll make the motion to pass 3A and 3B. Accept.
Any other discussion? Call the roll.
Kiefer,
Aye.
Weigert,
Aye.
Mott,
Aye.
Borsick,
Aye.
Bowen,
Present.
Cummings,
Aye.
Ford,
Aye.
Kins,
Aye.
Crop.
Aye.
Motion carried, 8-0-1.
Next item, general development plan and specific plan for a warehouse and distribution facility at 3970 Poberezny Road.
Thank you. As you just mentioned, this is a request to construct a warehouse facility and distribution center located at the southeast corner of Poberezny Road and West Ripple Avenue. Up on the screen, I have an existing land use map. The property is currently zoned UI ED, which is an urban industrial district with planned development overlay. The air photo of the site. The site itself is currently used agriculturally. It's vacant and undeveloped, and surrounding it is more agricultural used lands to the south and east. EAA owns some property to the north. Looks like they have some kind of aviation-related storage facility there. I mean, I know they use that as part of their camping for AirVenture. And to the west is Interstate 41. Okay, here's the site plan of the proposed development. The applicant's proposing construction of a 194,700 square foot 40-foot tall single-story facility with associated office space, driveway parking areas, landscaping, and on-site stormwater detention. The proposed use is steel product warehousing and distribution, and they do on-site fabrication for custom orders. The proposed facility will be open to the public Monday through Friday from 8 till 5. However, the site will be staffed 24 hours today with 41st shift employees and 20 second and third shift employees. And the applicant's narrative does state that they do anticipate additional growth of another 20 or 30 employees. The subject property is 18.38 acres in size. The proposed structures, includes the 194,700 square foot building, 217,877 square feet of driveway and parking areas, which total 52.6% of the site for impervious surfaces, and 47.4% will remain undeveloped or green space. Proposed stormwater facilities are located in which mouse is it? There we go. On the south side with 4 basin right here and a detention basin on the east side of the property. The site plan or the plan notes do indicate that a trash enclosure is proposed at the southeast corner of the paved area. However, very little information is included, so staff is recommending more details on the location and design of the structure, and we're recommending that the structure have compatible materials as the main structure. Another feature of the building is a 25-foot wide by approximately 278-foot long lean-to or outdoor storage area along the east side of the building. Code does require exterior storage areas to be screened with an 8-foot tall solid fence, which is not indicated on the plan. So during site plan review, that will be worked out with the petitioner to provide that required screening. Look closely on the plan, these dotted areas, those are existing wetlands that were delineated on the property. When this parcel was created through via CSM a couple of years ago, there was a condition on the CSM requiring a wetland delineation. One has been conducted, and we originally had a condition for the petitioner to provide documentation from the DNR and Corps of Engineers to provide documentation about the potential disturbance of these wetlands, and we did receive that this morning. Initially, they were proposing to disturb 41,644 square feet of wetlands, but I received these today. They do have permitting through the DNR and Corps of Engineers. What they're more or less doing is doing an exchange of the wetlands they'll be disturbing here in exchange for off-site wetlands, and they have to provide the equivalent of 1.2 to 1 ratio for the removal of those wetlands. Go back. As far as access and circulation, they're proposing 2 driveway openings along Poberezny Avenue, one on the north side of the property and the other on the south. The northern one shows a 80.2-foot curb opening, and while the southern one is showing the code-compliant 70-foot curb opening. So staff is recommending that the northern driveway be reduced to 70 feet, which is more or less our Class 3 type driveway entrance. The plan also shows radii for both driveway entrances, and the access control requires 15-foot flares, so that will be another condition that should be alleviated at site plan review. One thing omitted on the plan, the code requires pedestrian access to public right-of-way. Nothing is indicated on the site, so we are adding another condition that they provide some type of pedestrian access to Poberezny Road. However, that those facilities would not have to be constructed until a public sidewalk is constructed along Poberezny, which will probably be quite a long time. Parking is shown as typical 9 by 18 foot stalls, 90 degrees, located along the front facade of the building. Over here, it's kind of difficult to see on this plan. Based on the use, they're allowed between 60 and 75. They are providing 75 stalls. And there's this little clear area right here. This is a proposed expansion area of their parking for another 28 stalls for anticipated growth of their the number of employees that they'll have working there. And they did include this portion in their stormwater calculations, so that's already been taken care of. In addition to the employee and customer parking, they're showing 28 semi-trailer stalls, 6 along on steep angles along the north side of the building, another 6 on the south side, and 16 along the east side. Staff's not too concerned with the ones on the east side. They're located pretty far away from their eastern property line. However, these stalls on the north and south side, they're kind of very highly visible from both Ripple Avenue and the interstate in Poberezny. So staff is recommending that some type of heavy screening, such as evergreen or arborvitae, be planted along those stretches to help shield those semi-trucks from the streets of the property. And as far as signage, no official sign package has been submitted. This is the only indication of signage they are showing on the facade. The signage is showing 5-foot tall channel letters, which equates to about 342.5 square feet in area, while the circular corporate logo, that's 13 feet in diameter for a total of 132.7 square feet, for a grand total of 475.2 square feet of wall signage. It is code compliant. The code allows a maximum of 1 square foot per linear foot of building frontage, and in this case, the building frontage on this facade is 478 square feet. They do mark some directional signage on their site plan, but there's no details on the size or look of them. So during site plan review, any additional signage will just have to meet the base code of the UI district. The petitioner provided a lighting plan. From our looks of it, it is code compliant. It'll just be rechecked during site plan review. So they meet the lighting limitations at the property lines of 0.5 foot candles. Their landscaping plan. This is what was submitted. It's mostly concentrated along the west side of the property, omitting a large portion to the east. However, they did a fantastic job with the quantities and distribution of the proposed plantings. In this little table down here, these show the quantities that are required based on the development and what they're proposing. Their yards are far short by 621 points, and overall they're short 425 points for their site plan. So staff will be working with the petitioner to up those numbers, and if we require the screening of the semi-trailer parking areas, they should be able to meet or surpass the landscaping requirements. As far as building design, these are the elevations provided by the petitioner. Along the west and north elevations, which are the ones facing Poberezny and Ripple Avenue, they're depicted of precast concrete panels, and based on the calculations I came up with, they're showing 5.5% of Class 1 materials along the western elevation facing Interstate 41, whereas in the UI district, 15% of Class 1 materials are required. And then on the north facade along Ripple Avenue, I calculated 3.4% of Class 1, where again 15% is required. That's these elevations right here, the northern elevation. This is one I'll be facing Ripple Avenue, and this is the elevation facing Interstate 41 and Poberezny. So the staff is recommending a condition that they provide additional Class 1 materials. I'll show you a couple of pictures of other Elro Steel buildings in the Midwest that does a really nice job with adding a little more higher quality materials for their facades. Additionally, the code recommends that buildings should avoid flat, unadorned walls, and the west facade keep grabbing it around mouse. With the exception of the office areas, pretty blank, long, vast expanses of uninteresting space, I guess you can say. Especially along the western side, which has the most visibility of from our interstate, and this being a gateway into Oshkosh. So staff is recommending, there are suggestions in the zoning ordinance that there's ways to break up those long expanses of blank walls. So staff will be working with the petitioner to see if we can dress those up a little bit. The west facade, which is, again, the one facing Interstate 41, has 3 large overhead doors. One more time. Okay. One on the south side and a large one on the north side, and an additional overhead door just south of the northerly garage door. These are used for vehicle entrances to enter inside the building, and per the applicant's narrative, all loading and unloading activities will take place within the building, so there will be no outdoor loading facilities outside. As far as I'm going to go back, as far as the other 2 facades on the east and south side, facing pretty much nothing besides agricultural lands. These are all going to be constructed of corrugated metal siding, which is code compliant, and it'll be constructed with colors matching the concrete panels along the other elevations. Stormwater management plans have been submitted, and they have been reviewed by the Department of Public Works, and Public Works has conditionally approved them. It appears that there's some just minor revisions that need to be made, so they're well underway with that. And again, we'll be going through final approvals through the site plan review. So with that, staff is recommending approval of, these are some other elevations of other Elro Steel buildings in Midwest. And some of them do have knee walls going all the way around the building just to add a little more interest to the building. They do provide pretty nice extensive landscaping along the perimeters of the property to help screen either storage or trailers, that sort of thing, from the public view. Same with this building over here. But yeah, some of these buildings do add some more architectural features to break up the long expanses of wall. So with that, staff is recommending approval. There were 11 conditions. 1 can be removed. The first condition, provide more detailed information on the proposed dumpster enclosure. Provide screen-compliant screening for the outdoor storage area on the east side of the building. The third one was provide documentation of permitting through the DNR and Army Corps of Engineers for disturbance of the wetlands. Oops, I did not mention, I'm sorry. Code does also require 6 bicycle spaces per the number of employee and customer spaces. So they do need to provide 6 bicycle spaces on the final site plan. I'm sorry, I missed that during my report. Fifth condition, reduce the northern driveway to 70 feet and convert 35-foot radii to 15-foot flares for both driveways. Provided a minimum 5-foot wide pedestrian access to the main entrance of the building, with the access to avoid driveways and drive aisles where practical, and the feature doesn't need to be constructed until there's sidewalk on Pobre Avenue. Provide a tall vegetative barrier to screen the semi-truck parking stalls along the north and south sides of the property. Additional signage not protected shall meet the standards of the UI district. Additional yard landscaping shall be provided and shall focus on the north, south, and east sides of the development as approved by community development. Increase the amount of Class 1 exterior materials to 15% of the wall area along the west and north building elevations. And finally, add architectural articulation features along the west and north facades to break up the long blank expanses.
Okay. Technical questions?
Just as, have you talked to the owner since you've developed this package?
I have not.
All right, so this is, in essence, the first time they're seeing that.
They are mailed the staff reports, so, and I did email them this morning, staff reports, so they did have the information.
Can you explain the difference between the 15-foot driveway flare and the 35-foot radius?
Okay, on the plan here, see how these are rounded. These are called radius flares that connect the driveway to the public street. What the access control ordinance requires are flares, which are pretty much straight lines that widen from the edge of the driveway up to 15 feet at the curb line. So more or less they're getting rid of the curb area and just connecting the dots with a straight line on both sides.
Next question, what makes the area to the east outdoor storage if it's covered?
It's an open view from the adjacent properties. There's no type of screening along this side of the building, so.
So you got a three-sided building, but just because there's an open side, it's
not totally enclosed. That's
correct. What makes you think, or to have more landscaping to the east?
Someday there will be a development over here.
Yeah, but when we look at what our industrial, where we want to put the points for, in our industrial parks, we ask it on a building without any exception, is just a wraparound, and we don't concentrate on the rear yard. And so I'm curious, why would we want to put more on a rear yard?
The code requires landscaping be placed within so many feet of features, including driveways. So they're not providing anything back there. This is the only area they're providing landscaping on the entire site.
Yeah, what I'm trying to say is, why would we make any issue at the east side?
There's outdoor storage and trailer parking. Why would we not want to landscape some of those things?
But that wouldn't make any difference if it was an industrial park.
It's not an industrial park, and we don't know what the future of this whole area holds, so I think that's part of it.
But when we have a burn area to the east, a burn pit to the east, pretty intensive right there. So, okay.
Other technical questions? Anything? Anybody here from the audience wishing to speak to this item?
George Kidler with O'Hara Construction, 4575 Ann Arbor Road, Jackson, Michigan. Here representing the owner, Alro Steel.
Okay. Are you aware of these 11 conditions?
I am aware of them, yes. Yep.
Does the owner have any problems with these conditions?
No, none that I can see, especially the truck parking along the north and the south. I don't know if that's really necessary. You know, that in lieu of, I think we would rather remove the truck parking along there than to have great big trees along Ripple that maybe we wouldn't need for landscaping.
Yeah, that's
our spaces in the back would be, I think they would be plenty.
Yeah, we were just using the other sites that add, you know.
I mean, we're fine with the landscaping, we're not sure,
Solid
for
tone.
height-wise is
Okay.
what we thought. You guys might not be as interested in height as, that we might have to get for like a trailer or something over there. We're fine either way.
I don't think we're looking to have a solid screen, but something with, landscaping to break it up a little
Mhm.
bit, just to
Right.
break up the vastness of it. So I think
sure.
either or is fine.
Certainly okay with that. And we will have to, someday there will be a sidewalk along that area too.
Well, this strikes me as an example of where it's good to have the general plan come in first and the specific plan come in later, because there are concerns about,
Exactly.
all about the Class 1 materials and the articulation, especially Plan Commission likes to weigh in on things like that. And the yard landscaping, you've said, well, that can get worked out, so.
Our, the panels on the front, I have another couple of pictures here if I can
Sure.
pass them around there. This is a building in Tulsa, Oklahoma, where we use a panel, but there are grooves and different things in them panels, so that it's not one 12-foot panel up and down. So they're different grooves, so that it makes them look more like a stone look or a block type look.
I think, aren't we interested in some horizontal?
We like that.
Yeah.
You're what? Karen?
Horizontal
Yeah.
breakup would be good.
Sure, we like it
And,
compartmentalized. The
and I
building.
don't know what this picture's gonna show, but we aren't,
Not that.
No, basically what it is grooves and basically what it is the concrete panels are grooved areas. This picture here is, that building there is all metal siding. And I think all them buildings are metal siding on the front facade. And we didn't want to do that, so we didn't think you guys would be interested in just metal panels on the front, as it is in the back.
okay, well, our condition number 11 is our architectural articulation features. I would expect the commission to approve that, and is that something that staff, Darren, can negotiate with,
Yeah, we can work with that. I mean, there's things like different materials, different colors, things like that. I mean,
Absolutely, we're all for, one thing
Yeah, banding.
we need to do, and we always try to do with a building that size and big, is to try to get some breakup in it too. I mean, I know the owner is all for trying to enhance that.
That's the intent of the condition. We can work it,
Okay.
we should be able to work through those issues, and if we run into an issue, we can always bring it back, but that's not the intent.
So,
David?
Do you have any problem with the screening of the lean-to on the east side of the building?
well, we've never screened one, but I don't know if we have a problem with it. What I'm more concerned about is along, it would be to the east back there where that wetland area is and things. I'm not sure what we could do in that wetland area to get some landscaping in that area. Or some trees and things in that area where the wetland is.
Or maybe we should add, when I saw screening, it was some kind of screening that was closer to the outdoor storage portion.
Nope, it can be located anywhere between the storage area and the property line.
Basically, what that is, what we call a storage area, when they ship, that would be pallets. And basically, what it does is keeps the pallets dry, so they're not wet when they ship the steel out and it don't rust. That's why we need an area like that, just to keep the pallets, and that way they're not all over everywhere either.
Do you have any problem with the driveways?
We always like the biggest entrance as we can. I wonder the driveway to the north, the angle, I think we made it a little wider than that, but I'm sure we can work with you guys and make that happen. But we always like, mill truck drivers, we like as much room as we can have. We would like to have 200 feet for everyone, to be honest with you, for truck drivers.
Another question, you're located downtown, off South Main now. Is it the intention to eventually move from that property, or you don't know yet?
I believe that is their intention. what has happened is that through our wetland delineation and our wetland process with the Wisconsin DNR and the Army Corps of Engineers, the building was going to be quite a bit smaller, but we couldn't get a permit to do future area. And that area would be between where we wanted to drive out back so that we had our turning radiuses. So Alro Steel made the decision to go ahead and just build the entire building at this time. So I believe that is their intention, but I wouldn't say for sure that would.
Okay, it's not important.
I would say with the building that size, that would be their intention.
Any other questions for the petitioner? I guess not. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you.
Anybody else here to speak on this item, Alro Steel? Anybody else? Seeing none, back to the commission.
Motion to approve with the conditions.
Second.
Strike number 3.
Any discussion? Yeah, remove number 3.
Right.
Any discussion on the motion? Okay, call the roll.
Hooper.
Aye.
Weigert.
Aye.
Mott.
Aye.
Forsick.
Aye.
Bowen.
Aye.
Cummings.
Aye.
Ford.
Aye.
Hins.
Aye.
Prop.
Aye.
Motion carried 9-0 with amended condition.
Okay, next item, land disposition of property located at the former golf course, 1507 North Eagle.
Thank you. Okay, everybody should be familiar with this site. This is a request to permit the city to dispose of a piece of property at the Lakeview Municipal Golf Course. Up on the screen is an aerial of the site. The city originally dedicated a right-of-way extension of North Westfield Street and dedication of at the time was an unnamed street to connect to Rath Lane and kind of make a looped roadway. Since that time, some new wetland information came in requiring the city to redesign the street, resulting in a new layout of the street. So a couple weeks ago, the Plan Commission recommended to the Common Council to vacate what was originally dedicated and rededicate right away based on a new design. As a result of that, the proposed CSM is showing some outlots. I'm going to go to the CSM that's being prepared for the city. What's happening is 2 outlots are being formed because of the shift of the street to the north, and the city is looking to dispose of this outlot here, which is outlot 1, to the properties to the south as part of their development. Reason being, these lots are they're undevelopable due to the weird or irregular size, and it's not very deep. It's only about approximately 70 feet deep, so from a development standpoint, you really can't do anything with it. And in addition to that, what's my train of thought here? Well, anyways, oh yeah, I'm sorry. A couple of months ago, the city dedicated an additional 20 feet of Oshkosh Avenue on the north side of Oshkosh Avenue, which more or less took away land from the property owner here. So, to make up for that lost property, this land disposition will kind of make up for that additional right-of-way that was provided by the property owners to the south. So staff is recommending approval of this land disposition. Oh, sorry, a couple things I want to talk about here too yet. Okay. There were some concerns about providing pedestrian access along this new street. This is a sidewalk plan of the intersection of North Westfield and North Keller Street. This area in pink is the subject site which we're looking to dispose. And it does show a sidewalk network on both sides of the street and widening from 5 feet, I believe, up to 10 feet. And eventually, this Parks Department will begin development of a parks plan for the former golf course. And when the city created the CSM for the Oshkosh Corporation's property, we retained an 80-foot wide strip of land between Oshkosh Corp's property and the properties to the south. And this was is a map that was presented to the Parks Board on August 13th, showing the new street right-of-way and the existing property lines. And this area over here circled is showing that 80-foot wide strip that's still going to be owned by the city. Now, there are going to be some stormwater-related features along here, some kind of prairie feature that'll act as quality control. But there will still be 15 feet width available at this this property line right here, and then it does eventually widen to a wider usable strip. So there is possibility of having a pedestrian trail walk through or constructed through this area yet. The next slide is the 3D rendering that was provided by our consultant. The area in question is circled in red, showing a proposed trail. So our consultant had the foresight that there should be some kind of interconnection of a internal trail system on the golf course property. And this is just like a little close-up of that area showing the proposed trail within that 80-foot wide strip owned by the city. And lastly, this is just another conceptual plan from our consultant, again showing proposed pathway going through that 80-foot wide strip that's still owned by the city. So staff is in support of the land disposition. There are a couple of things we have some additional housekeeping issues to take care of. That is the Outlot 1 needs to be rezoned from institutional zone district to the corporate business park with a plan development overlay to make it consistent to the properties to the south. And the proposed outlot will be integrated with the next CSM for the properties to the south, and a draft CSM is in place already showing that incorporation.
Okay, but that zoning change will take place later.
Yes.
Correct.
Technical questions. I've got one. Perhaps I need to wait for Ray Maurer to come up, but go back to the map and show how the 80-foot would connect across that intersection with Oshkosh Corp driveway going up one side and...
This one here?
I guess so. It's not intuitively obvious to me how does that connect in over that little triangle? I see the sidewalk. And then I see a green 80-foot strip of land, and there's, call it a little triangle in
Yeah,
the-
this is public
Steve's
right of way
coming
right
up.
here.
I'll jump in here to help
Please.
explain this. So this is the 80-foot strip of land that the city owns. This is the Westfield right of way or the speckled area here is the sidewalk with the widened out 10-foot path. This is the parkland.
Right.
So at some point in time, there'll be a path coming through this area that can come out and connect to the sidewalk along Westfield Street, this 10-foot widened path. The path will bring people across through in front of the Oshkosh Corp property in the right of way, and then the paths can then snake back off of here into the park. We have a large wetland area here, which is why the sidewalk is pulled in that we can't disturb. It's an Army Corps wetland.
Okay.
So the trails will have to work around here. So the connection is you can come from the park, come out, get onto this widened sidewalk trail section that will parallel Westfield, and then get back into the park. The advantage being you don't actually have to cross the street here at a non-intersection
Yeah,
location
good.
to keep working your way through the park.
Okay, but you'll be on the sidewalk, which essentially is an intersection from the Oshkosh Corp driveway onto Keller Westfield, right?
Correct, but it's
I mean, there'll be some kind of access.
There'll be an access
control.
point here, but again, it'll be a driveway. It won't be an at-grade intersection. So this is gonna have
Yeah.
an apron and a sidewalk and be raised up where people are gonna have to slow down to not hit the bump and actually make the turn. So it'll
Okay.
be like any other driveway.
Okay,
where they
so the
do-
city will continue to own that. I'm calling it a little triangle of
Yeah,
property.
we're continuing, this is staying as right away for
Oh,
access.
okay, all right,
purposes.
okay, thank you. Thank you. Anybody here to speak on this item, land disposition? Anybody here to speak? Okay, seeing none, back to the commission.
Motion to approve.
Second.
I want to say thank you for clearing up my concerns about access between the east side of what I hope will be a new park and the west side, so I appreciate that. Call the roll.
Kiefer,
Aye.
Weigert,
Aye.
Mott,
Aye.
Forsyth,
Aye.
Bowen, Cummings,
Aye.
Ford,
Aye.
Hintz,
Aye.
Crop.
Aye.
Motion approved 8-0.
Next item, general plan development amendment for hotel, commercial, and retail on Oshkosh Avenue.
Thank you. So, again, talking about familiar projects. So this is a general development plan amendment. It's basically to incorporate the parcel we just discussed during the land disposition, as well as some minor site modifications they've made to the previously approved general development plan for the area. So here we do have the subject area. Jeff did include for us kind of that modified road system, so you can see the parcel there. This is the current land use map, shows generally commercial on the north side, the Casey's development 2B to the east, and then we have that mixture of single family to the south. Here is the aerial. So we have the old Robbins site, and then the area we're kind of discussing today. This is where the previously approved Casey's site is. So here we do have the conceptual site plan. It's an approximately 6.4 acre parcel. Same general acreage with just some minor modifications from the previous general development plan approval. The main difference being just the way that road kind of realigns slightly. This concept plan you do see here does take into account the land disposition parcel we just discussed. So it does include 3 access points off the site. The first access point being on the east side along North Westfield, which is intended to line up with that access drive into the Casey's and the commercial development across the street. 1 access point onto North Keller. The current plan does include an access point out onto Rath Lane. Staff is recommending that that access point be removed. This is outlet 2 of the CSM we just discussed. The intent of the city would be for this outlet to be disposed to the property to the south of in the future, just as outlet 1 we just discussed is. Rath Lane will not be needed once the future development takes place here, as North Keller Street is replacing it is the roadway in that area. So we would recommend that this be removed, and we've added a condition as such. So the applicant is showing approximately 112 room extended stay hotel on the site. The general layout of that hotel has been tweaked a little bit from the previous approval, but it is mainly kind of the same concept as what they previously showed. Again, they continue to show a number of commercial buildings on the site. That would be hopefully later phases. They're looking at about 3 buildings, 4,600 square feet or so. But that will all have to come back through this process, obviously, as specific implementation plans for both the hotel site and the future commercial development. Conceptual site plan indicates about 24 parking spaces directly on the hotel portion, with about 179 shown for the remainder. Because of the nature of how this is kind of going to be 2 parcels for cross-development, staff is recommending, same as we did on the previous general development plan, we maintain that condition that cross-access be approved between the lots. Staff has also suggested that this be conditioned on a required CSM, incorporating the outlot that we just discussed, as well as creating the hotel parcel. That is consistent with what we did on the original approval. At this point now, we do have a draft CSM that does that, but we want to make sure that it's conditionally approved. Staff is recommending base standard modifications be approved along that common property line between the 2 parking areas, down to a 0 foot. Again, with the cross-access easements should not be a concern, but we want to address those 0 foot setbacks at this time. This is really functioning as a larger development, even though it's going to be multiple parcels. Finalized stormwater management plans have not been submitted. Obviously, this is still at the concept level, and this does have a unique stormwater management plan taking place with the city being involved in what's going on here. But finalized stormwater management plans will need to be submitted during the SIP process, and the site plan review will have the final approval of those plans. Conceptual landscape plan has been provided. It is relatively vague. It does show a variety of trees and shrubs. Obviously, as we get into specific implementation plans for each of these elements, we will review them against those stringent code requirements that were put in place for the corporate business park district. And then the big one. So they have provided some relatively finalized building elevations for the hotel. One of the main elements the applicant wanted to discuss today was their building facades. So these facades do almost meet the full requirements of the corporate business park zoning district. They meet the kind of base, middle, top standard that we go for. They meet the roofline variation that we wanted. 3 of the 4 sides of the building meet the 75% Class 1 material. So this building is largely comprised now of a little bit of ephes on the top sides. So those are kind of these elements here are ephes. And then these main color differentiations here are all brick. One side of the building, being the west building facade, which I believe is this one, is at 74%. Staff feels it is within reason to grant a base standard modification for 74% of that building. Just the architectural way it lays out, they fell that 1% short, but they're really meeting the intent of why we put that in. So with that, staff is recommending approval. There's kind of another kind of color rendering for you of the hotel, that it is largely now a brick building. And staff recommends approval of the general development plan amendment with a couple of conditions. Approval of the CSM for the proposed 2-lot configuration. Elimination of the Rath Lane access point. Cross-access parking, signage, stormwater. All those agreements and easements we need because this is functioning as a multi-lot development. Base standard modification to reduce the west building elevation to 74% Class 1. And a base standard to show this came over from the previous one. They showed 2 signage locations along Oshkosh Avenue with no signage around the rest of the property. So they're really using it as an integrated site. Staff would, again, recommend, as we did the last time, that they hold those same requirements, that be the only freestanding signage allowed outside of directional. And then that the hotel should not have a free independent sign because they are going to be having their signage along Oshkosh Avenue, even though their lot is not on Oshkosh Avenue. And I can go back and kind of quickly point that out. It's on the site plan here. Not on that site plan. So they're showing 2 signage locations. They didn't come through on this one. The plans kind of indicate 1 common signage for the development here and 1 common signage development plan here, which is consistent with the previously approved general development plan. We just wanted to carry those conditions forward as we have amended the plan.
Okay. Technical questions, David?
Will we have a view of the signs before they're installed? Will that come before us?
During the SIP, they will need to submit sign packages. If they do not, it will be up to this body to determine, as we've done for, say, Oshkosh Corp or someone else, that they need to come back once they're ready with them. That would be similar to what we do with Oshkosh Corp. We approve.
Can we put that as a condition?
They still have to come back for SIP, so we can do it at that time.
Other technical questions? Seeing none. Anybody here from the audience to speak on this?
Hello, Steve Hoopman, 5105 Iameda Road, Oshkosh. Just here to answer any questions, I guess, in particular that you might have. We've been working on the general development plan now for a number of months and feel we've gotten it to a point where we can hopefully begin to move forward with it a little bit more in detail. In working with some of the hotel flags, they are a little bit more particular in their requirements and what they are looking for and so forth. So we're working through those issues, but hoping to get in the ground by late October, early November to get foundation work in before the winter. So, but here to answer any questions if anybody has anything.
Thank you for working with us on the Class 1 materials.
I'll just ask
Appreciate that.
It doesn't really have much to do with what we're doing, but I know you had expressed concerns when we were workshopping and discussing this about who's going to be the hotel chain that you end up going through. I see Marriott on here. Is that who's behind us?
We're close to getting it finalized with them, yeah.
Okay, that's good to hear.
Any other questions? I guess not. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Anybody else here wanting to speak on this item? Back to the commission.
Motion to approve with conditions.
Second.
Discussion?
Just real quick, I want to commend the applicants as well as this body for making a little bit of a fuss about that Class 1 materials. I mean, it worked, so that's good.
Yeah.
Right
Anything
thing
else?
to do, too.
Call the roll.
Kiefer,
Aye.
Weigert,
Aye.
Mott,
Aye.
Forsick,
Aye.
Cummings,
Aye.
Ford,
Aye.
Hintz,
Aye.
Crop.
Aye.
Motion approved, 8-0.
Rouge Park Master Plan.
All right. Going to make this quick? We can make this real quick. This is approval of Rouge Park Master Plan. Basically, what we're looking for this body to do, and we'll get into a little bit of the particulars of it, but really we're looking for a consistency with our comp plan. The intent of the review that we're doing here tonight is not really to monkey around with what is actually within that park as far as a trail here or that. It's really to look at the plan, see it, and make a recommendation that's consistent or inconsistent with our comprehensive plan. We'll go over here we are. Quick. So the plan was developed by the Parks Department in consultation with Rettler. They do a lot of park planning. Parks and the consultant work with Sawyer Creek Neighborhood Association. They've had meetings on this, talking about development of this particular park. Funding for this actually came out of our Great Neighborhoods Fund that we fund annually. So here's a look at where the park currently is located. We got this park, I think it was in 1998. It covers about 43 acres, zoned institutionally. This is over on the city's west side. Here's Carl Traeger Elementary School. This is the park. As you can see, it is basically, it's kind of an environmental conservation type park. It's a 43-acre park. The vast majority of it is wetland, open space, things like that. There's about 17 acres of lands that aren't in that status. It's been used for several years, and you can see, if you look on this aerial photo, you can see it's bisected in various areas by trail systems. These trail systems link back over to the neighborhoods to the east and to the north. And this plan, as you'll see, really what it does, it's really laying out a potential trail system that's going to connect to the west as we develop to the west. So here is kind of the master plan layout. And Ray, you might want to at some point talk about how this was developed. But it's a very Spartan plan. You don't have a lot of opportunity to do your standard ball field type developments in this park. So what it's really doing is it's becoming an active recreational area. So you can see the red are proposed trails within this park, and you can see that we're trying to connect the trail system as the city develops. And we have some development interests here to the west. We want to bring that trail system along Sawyer Creek and continue that out till we can get out to Clareville Road. You can also see that we have trail loops in here linking back to Carl Traeger over here and to a future development over here, which is this is owned by Rouge right now, and they're going to come up with some development plans for that, and it'll be nice to have a master plan that we can actually link to it as part of that process. There's a bridge, I think there's a couple bridge and some structures in here, but it's really, there's not a heck of a lot. It's a kind of a trail plan for this park. Ray, what kind of comments might you have that I'm missing on this thing?
Well, I could just touch on a couple of the items that we have in the plan as far as developing this. We did have 3 public input meetings held at Carl Traeger School on February 14th, March 22nd, and April 25th. A lot of input from the citizens, mainly keeping it more of a natural place. Trail system, as Darren said, for future connections. You will see that on the far west side there is another bridge proposed across Sawyer Creek as future residential development takes place there, so we'd have another bridge crossing further down to the west. A lot of discussion about whether or not there should be some low-level lighting here, and ultimately the Parks Board decided that there will be lighting in the future, and it's going to be it'll be mainly on the east side. You can see some of those, and it's mainly for security as well, but also for some of the nighttime uses. But again, having it low-level trail lighting so that we actually talked about side shields on the lights so that it's not much light pollution and so forth. But basically, as Darren said, it's really trail connections, keeping it as native as possible, and just getting people through some of those wetland areas.
So I don't have much to add, so if you have technical questions, we're just, right now, at this point, we're just asking for approval of a plan based on the finding that it's not, or that's consistent with our comprehensive plan and the Corp plan. Parks Board will look at it, Ray's looked at it, we found it to be consistent with the Corp and our comprehensive plan, mainly in part because our comprehensive plan already shows us as a park, and it's also zoned appropriately. So from that perspective, that's why it's easy for us to support the plan.
Trail lighting could be added on the western edge as desired later, right?
We'd have to take a look at that as far as getting access. We would have it obviously to the far, the existing boardwalk area. It's something that we could look at as the future development takes place. It was a very contentious subject with the neighborhood association as well as neighbors over there. So we did want to at least show it on the active site that's currently being used for the neighborhood.
Any other questions? I guess not. Thank you. Anybody else here to speak on this item, Bruce Park? Seeing none, back to the commission.
Motion to approve.
Second. I just a comment. I'm a part of the Sawyer Creek neighborhood. We worked with the city and Rattler. I appreciate all the efforts of Ray and Chad, and as well as Rattler Corporation in developing this. It was some very interesting meetings that we had, but I think the majority held out for the lighting, and we're very blessed that we're going to have that hopefully someday. I'd also like to point out that with Carl Traeger there, they've made some improvements to a playground area. There's 2 ball diamonds there, so it's a really good connection to the park. A lot of good space. Obviously, the fields out there are used for soccer. All the Oshkosh Flyers football program practices out over there. It's a lot of outdoor uses in adjacent to the actual park area. So very pleased that this was able to get through and get past. So thank you.
That's a good catch, John. I forgot to say that it does link to more active recreational areas on Carl Traeger.
Nothing wrong with a passive park like this. Any more discussion? Call the roll.
Kiefer.
Aye.
Weigert.
Aye.
Mott.
Aye.
Orsick.
Aye.
Cummings.
Aye.
Ford.
Aye.
Hins.
Aye.
Kraft.
Aye.
Motion carried 8-0.
Ooh, did we add a motion?
Thought we did.
Oh, you moved it?
Bob moved it.
All right. Sorry, I was making
Somebody
sure.
seconded it. Is that right?
Yep.
Okay.
Correct.
Anything else on the formal meeting before we adjourn?
Motion to approve, adjourn.
Second.
So we have a,
All in favor?
or this is a potential, we have a workshop.
Yes.
One workshop.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 All right, now we go into a workshop.